Do you ever feel like burning your whole life down just to escape the overwhelm? Look, you're not alone. And today's guest, she almost did exactly that. Our guest today is Dr. Zoe Shaw, and she knows firsthand about burnout. She's a licensed psychotherapist, a best-selling author, a busy mom of 5, and she completely transformed her life when she did one thing. She committed to self-care every day for an entire year. And her entire life changed. And yours will too after hearing today's episode. If you're ready to reclaim your energy, your time, your sanity, and your life again, hit that subscribe button. Because every week I'm bringing you the best and most revolutionary ways to help you live a happier, healthier, and more empowered life. Welcome to Good Mood Revolution. Zoe, welcome to Good Mood Revolution.
Thank you, Matt. I'm thrilled to be on here today. I love what you're doing.
Well, I love what you're doing. And I'd love for you to take us into I know you're juggling so many things. 5 kids. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of kids.
It's a lot.
And you're a coach and a mentor and a podcast host. And before you really committed to self-care, what was going on? How did you cope with the burnout and the overwhelm?
You know, I did what a lot of women, unfortunately, get themselves stuck into doing. I was doing everything for my family, doing everything for my work, and really just nothing for myself at all. I was homeschooling as well as working full time. You know, I was doing all the things, and I got myself to a point of not caring for myself in such a way that I was asking other people in my life to step up in the way that they should. I was doing everything. Elaine Fluker actually wrote a chapter in her book called Get Over I Got It. And she talks about something called I got it syndrome, which a lot of women unfortunately suffer with, myself included. And what I realized when I finally kind of hit rock bottom and I was ready to just really blow up my whole life and family, like I'm done with all of this, was that I'd been neglecting myself. And we all know that when we neglect ourselves, we are no longer able to care for our people in a healthy way. But unfortunately, there's a lot of societal messages. There's a lot of push for women, especially, to do it all and do it all well and sacrifice. And women get praise for being so sacrificial. You rarely hear men get praised for that so much, right? But it's like, oh, she just gave everything of herself and she was such a great woman and she sacrificed everything, as if that's an idol that we have to work towards. So I figured out that wasn't working, and I embarked on a year of self-care, and I really, I changed my life.
What is self-care and what isn't it?
Yes, I love that question, because when I first started to understand and try to figure out what self-care was, I thought, okay, it's like taking a bubble bath. It's making myself feel good. And a lot of women say that. And sometimes women will say, oh, you know, I don't have time for self-care. I can't afford a babysitter to go to, out or whatever. And the reality is that I figured out, after really looking at what cares for us, that self-care is a 360 thing, meaning it's not just about things that feel good. It's also about things that are good for us. So when I think about self-care and caring well for ourselves, I think, what is a good mother? A good mother, she makes us feel good. She gives us hugs. She nurtures us. She takes care of us. But what else does a good mother do? She makes us take a bath.
She disciplines us.
She disciplines us. She makes us eat our vegetables. She makes us do our homework. She makes us do all of those things that we don't want to do because they're not fun.
That was a total surprise in your book, where a whole month is devoted to discipline.
Yeah. Yes. Because discipline sets us free, right? And so that's what I began to understand when I looked at what is real self-care. Real self-care cares for ourselves like a good mother would.
I love this, but it still seems vague and ambiguous. And I really want our listener who's burned out, my wife and I have 4 kids, and what happens is I'll clear some things. I know I loved May. The chapter that you have for the month of May was to cut some things out in your life so that you can create some space. My wife says every time you clear some things out, you end up filling it.
Yep.
And so, and then when she's like, and then you're just as busy as you were. And I know our listener has those days too. It could be in one right now. How long does self-care take, and what does it really look like?
What we can't do well is binge self-care, because self-care is one of those things like sleep. You can try to catch up on your sleep on the weekends, right? And yeah, I mean, it helps a little, but what we know from research is that it doesn't really. We've got to be doing it consistently. It's like brushing your teeth. It's like eating your vegetables. And so real self-care should not take very long every day. It takes a minute to brush your teeth.
That's amazing. I love that. I love this analogy. You
Mm-hmm.
can't binge brushing your teeth.
Right.
You can't not brush them for 2 weeks and then go ahead and brush for 3 hours and be good.
Right. It just doesn't work that way.
Or you can't binge eating your vegetables. You can't eat pizza and cookies every single day for a month and then go ahead and just eat a day of vegetables and figure that you're okay.
Right.
Self-care is going to be very similar. It's something that has to be done every single day.
Yeah. So I really want people to shift their lens when they think about self-care. Instead of this big act that we're doing for ourselves, it needs to be wrapped up into our routine, which is why I created the book, because you can do everything I put in that book, most everything in 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes less than that. Sometimes it's just taking a moment, right? To breathe, to think about a positive affirmation. And then sometimes it's doing something that takes 5 to 10 minutes for yourself. That's just saying, I am caring for myself.
You wrote this quote in your book that it stuck with me. And it said, self-care is a reckoning with your soul, where you declare, I am worthy to be cared for.
Yes, I am worthy to be cared for. I have that mantra written on my desk because sometimes we have to remind ourselves. And a lot of times people will say, oh, I know I'm worthy. But my question is, does the way that you walk your entire days, do they look like you declare yourself worthy? Because our behavior actually reflects what we really feel, right? Our behavior reflects our priorities. And so I want you to just look at that and say, am I really demonstrating that to myself every day, that I'm worthy to be cared for?
My wife is a self-sacrificer.
Yeah.
And she's worthy to be cared for.
She is. Yes.
And I've talked with her about this. I know you were saying especially for women, prioritizing self-care needs to be something that's done. And I would ask her, I'd say, why is there so much pressure on you to self-sacrifice? And she said, I'm like, you have a career, and she does, and she's really great at it. And I'm like, and then you have to make the perfect dinners. And you have to get all the laundry done yourself, and the house has to be clean. And if someone's coming over, especially her parents, it has to be really clean. And she reflected on it, and she said, I feel like maybe my worth as a woman is tied up in how I do the domestic things. And that's not really fair.
Oh, it's not. It's especially not fair because now women do more than just domestic things, right? Our value is about more than that. 100 years ago, maybe not. But it's especially not fair now. And it's a really difficult conundrum for women because the societal messages are the same. And of course, my book isn't just for women. Men also struggle with the idea of being worthy to be cared for. But, when we look at women specifically, it's interesting because I have a friend who's a single dad. And he brought his daughter to work with him one day. And what happened when he brought his daughter to work? All the women were fawning over his daughter. That's so cute. That's adorable. You're such a great dad. When a woman, for some reason, she loses childcare that day or something happens and she brings her child to work, what happens?
Not the same message.
She gets sideways looks. What's wrong with you? Why haven't you taken care of this? Completely different. So the expectations for fathers as parents and as in the domestic world is just so low, unfortunately. And the expectations for women is astronomical.
I was raised by a single mom, not my entire life, but for some very formative years from age 5 to 10. And she was doing it all. She was super mom. There's 4. I'm one of 4. So she's the sole income provider, the sole parent, the mom and the dad. She was doing it all. And that gave me so much more perspective on who I wanted to be as a parent and how I
Oh,
wanted to
it's
show
beautiful.
up for my wife. So, um, some of our listeners, half of them are male.
Right.
What's your message to them as to how they could support a woman who feels like she needs to do it all?
Yeah, well, the first message I want to send to men is that self-care is also for you, because especially 360 self-care, because sometimes men think they're caring for themselves when they're, chilling out, watching TV, playing video games, or things that may be distracting. Because I have a lot of conversations with clients about, is that self-care or is that distracting? And so I'd like to encourage men to pay attention to the ways that they kind of situate their downtime and make sure that it's actually caring for your body, mind, soul, not just distracting. But how can men care for women? There's that term of, I think it's called, is it emotional labor, right? And one of the things that is so frustrating for women is this concept that they have to carry not just domestic labor, but the emotional labor of a family. And often a man will look at a wife and say, how can I help you? And even that word sometimes can create some anger, because the reality is a woman's like, but we're supposed to be partners here. It's not that you're supposed to help me. We're supposed to be doing this together. And sometimes a woman, even having to now delegate, let me figure out what you can help with, feels kind of alienating. And so the best way a man, a husband, a partner can help their partner is to actually get in there and participate and figure out what needs to be done and start doing it. And then, you can talk to your partner about all of the tasks, but even when you approach it from a sense of, how can I help you? It's telling her, yeah, this is all your job and I'll help in some way that I
Yeah, and
can.
I'll just throw in a little bit here.
Exactly.
I love the analogy in your book about a car with four wheels,
Hmm.
and how if you lose one wheel, that car is not going to go very well.
Right.
And
Yeah.
definitely if you lose two wheels, that car might not move at all.
Mm-hmm.
And you were mentioning that there are four aspects to self-care: the body, the mind, the soul, and then the emotions.
Mm.
Well, could you give us an example of what self-care might look like for the body, the mind, the soul, and the emotions?
Oh, excellent question. Yeah. So for the body, that's pretty clear, right? We know how to care for our body. We hear about it everywhere. A lot of times people think, once again, they have to go big. They have to be this weekend warrior. They have to put in all this time. 10 minutes walking a day has an effect on your body. In fact, 10 to 15 minutes of walking a day can be as effective as blood pressure medication, right? And so what I want you to start thinking about is the very small ways that you can create self-care for yourself. So body, it's moving your body, just moving. It's how you take care of your body, whether it's the brushing your teeth every day instead of binge brushing your teeth, or other ways that you care for your body. When we look at your soul, I personally believe that everybody has a soul. And so we are both body and soul, right? And so for people who believe that, I think it's important to pay attention to how your soul is sitting in your body, how you are thinking about maybe a greater power in your interaction with that. And so whether it's meditating, praying, sitting and deep breathing, spending just a few minutes every day focusing on soul in your body. And then when it comes to our emotions often run all of our decisions. Our emotions really create the lens through which we see the world. And so sometimes it's just naming them and being willing to admit that we have them in the moment. And so when something's happening, just name your emotion. What am I feeling right now? And when we think about emotions, joy, obviously, happiness tells us that something's going well, right? Sadness usually tells us I've lost something. And so when you feel something like sadness, you want to ask yourself, what have I lost? Go ahead and honor that. Anger tells us something wrong happened. And so you want to ask yourself, in what ways was I or somebody else, what happened that was wrong? Fear, of course, tells us we're in danger. And so it's helpful if we pay attention to our emotions, name them. It actually helps us work through them. instead of pushing them down. And so there's some exercises about, just understanding emotions, processing emotions, letting them go through your body and watch them move instead of pushing them down, because they actually go away faster if we're trying to make that happen by doing that.
So you've hit on some very interesting aspects of self-care. And the very first one you talked about was body. And this is probably where our minds usually go is,
Right.
if I just go get a massage, or if I exercise, or if I eat right, or do something for my body, that's considered self-care. But then you've got these other aspects of self-care.
Right.
We all do have a soul, whether the person wants to admit it or not.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Yes.
And our soul's trying to catch our attention. And often our soul will catch our attention with pain, physical pain, or pain in our circumstances. I don't think accidents are always accidents. I think sometimes they're orchestrated by our soul for us to learn a lesson that maybe we're being pretty obstinate about wanting to learn.
Yes.
So it's really neat the way you're saying, hey, every day we should do something to care for our body. Just go for a walk, 10 minutes. Every day, do something to connect with your soul.
Yes.
Pray, meditate, get quiet, ask our soul, what do you want me to know today? Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? And then with these emotions, I have many people I talk with, the people I've worked with, that say, I don't know what my emotions are, or I don't feel emotions, or I don't feel anger. And you're urging us to every day ask ourselves, what are we feeling? What is this emotion saying? Honor it. Yeah, when we're sad, we don't want to say, I just don't want to feel sad.
Right.
Being sad is I have lost something.
Yes.
I've lost something that mattered to me.
Right. Something
Being angry
tiny or something big. Yeah.
Yeah. Angry, somebody's done something I don't like. Somebody's done something that maybe has violated me in some way, or I feel violated in some way. And that's a good thing to feel. It's a good thing to feel, because it says that I have boundaries and I know what they are and they've been crossed. And this is self-care. So analyzing our emotions and saying, what do I feel right now? That's one of the aspects of self-care. And the last one that you mentioned is the mind. How can we use self-care for the mind?
I tell my clients often that we talk to ourselves more than anybody talks to us, and we talk to ourselves more than we speak to anybody else. And so that makes us our greatest influencers, right? And the reality is that the words that we speak create the life that we want to have, or the life that we don't want to have. And just like we need to be aware of our emotions, we need to be deeply aware of the words that we speak to ourselves. And that's part of caring for ourselves and our mind, is understanding our psychology, understanding maybe things that trigger our shame, trigger our anger, trigger our abandonment issues, whatever. It's being aware of, what am I saying to myself? What do those words mean? And how do they affect my psyche? How do they affect the way that I show up in the world?
All of this takes a lot of time, it seems like.
It seems like it. It seems like it. But just like those other routines we do, like going to the bathroom, brushing our teeth, if you're doing them in just 5-minute increments every day, it does not take that much time. When we don't do them, and when things build up, just like you were talking about emotions, like, I don't think, like, people will say, I don't feel emotions, or it's good to feel emotions. We all feel them. We do, whether we pay attention, whether we acknowledge, whether we distance from them. And so it's just taking sometimes seconds, sometimes a minute or two to acknowledge things. It really doesn't take that much time. It just feels like it.
I think self-care is not optional.
I agree.
It's part of our survival. The way I look at this is, you're either going to spend some time proactively doing self-care, or you're going to spend way more time reactively cleaning up the mess of not doing it.
Well, the question is it optional to put gas in your car, or oil, or all the other fluids that it requires, right? I mean, yeah, it's optional, but what happens if you don't?
It'll break down.
Yep.
Let's look at, you had a very interesting part of the book. It said, you can't just do a check mark in your self-care checkbox today. What did you mean by that?
I meant that it needs to go a little deeper. So really all the things that we talked about today, those are deeper things than just saying, oh, I, gave myself a little massage today, or even some of the little things I have, like, I rubbed my heart center today. Okay, let me check that box. I really want you to be present with yourself. Because when we just make it another little check off thing, once again, it just doesn't have the impact. It doesn't take any more time, but I want you to focus on it as if it really matters, as if you truly matter, not just another thing you need to check off your list.
That's awesome. Yeah. If it's just, it can become another to-do if it's a check mark.
Yeah.
Especially when we're juggling children and careers and real life challenges, aging parents,
right.
Different health issues that come up that like, okay, well, I better get my meditation in today.
Yeah.
And it's just like another to do. And I that's why I really liked that section of your book, because it's not just another to do. It's just part of it's like you said, taking care of the car so that we can continue to run.
Yeah. And it's giving yourself a hug, right? Not something you just check off. And I actually do have to-dos and I check off my self-care, but in the practice of doing it, I think about and giving myself a hug, and that makes it more than a to-do.
You're giving meaning to the items.
Yeah, I like that.
How do you handle days when you just don't feel like doing your self-care?
That's so good, because there's so many days that I don't feel like doing a lot of things. And often what I will tell myself and what I will also tell my clients is, number one, it doesn't really matter if I feel like it. What I do know is that it's good for me. And then the other thing is I look at kind of approximate attempts. So sometimes when I really don't feel like going to the gym, or when I really don't feel like eating my vegetables, I will do something like just show up for it. So how do I just show up in my gym? I can just walk to the gym and I can say, okay, I don't really have to do anything here. I'm just going to show up for it. It's kind of like the atomic habits, right? Or I'll just make the vegetables. I don't have to eat them, but I'll put them in the fridge, or I'll put them there. And when we at least kind of touch it, at least go somewhere near it, the reality is you're more likely to actually work out if you just show up at the gym. Don't give yourself some grace. You don't have to necessarily push yourself so hard every day, but ask yourself, hey, just show up for it. And you'll find that most of the time you just go through the action.
If someone maybe has fallen off the self-care routine and they've just completely dropped off, they're stuck in that, I don't have enough time for it. And there's, and their reasons are valid.
Sure. I've hurt myself, or I'm injured, sick. Sure.
How could they start small?
Sometimes journaling is a really good way to just start to kind of get back to knowing who you are. And so I would say take 1 minute. And sometimes I'll tell clients, even get a sticky note, because sometimes a big page feels like too much. You can just get a sticky note and take 1 minute and just what I talk about mind clearing, because clearing our minds and not carrying all that clutter is caring for ourselves. And so just get a little sticky note, get a tiny thing, and just write as many words as you can. They don't have to make sense. They don't have to be full sentences. Just start to clear your mind. And maybe if you can take 1 minute a day, even if you're laying in bed all day, just to do that, you'll find that just clearing it off your mind, and then taking a practice of saying, when things start to build up, writing it down and then saying, I wrote it down. It's over there. I know where it is. I can pick it back up when I'm ready, but I don't need to carry it right now. Sometimes clearing yourself in that way can be helpful, because it's more usually emotional and psychological, right? Why we don't want to self-care. We're feeling burdened. We're feeling angry, sad. We're just feeling frustrated or unmotivated, depressed. And sometimes getting some things off of our mind can be a tiny start.
I highly recommend what you just said. I think it's the best process that we possibly have. And it's so easy. Everyone has a pen and paper.
Right. Yeah.
And it is our thoughts that are repetitive and go in cycles.
Yep.
And oftentimes those cycles are negative. And
Yes.
we're just, our mind is spinning in circles. I don't have enough time. I can't get it all done. There's too much. This is going wrong, and this is going wrong, and this is going wrong. I found that when my mind is doing that, grabbing a pen and paper and just writing it all down on paper, now I can see it. It's
Yes.
not spinning
Yeah,
in circles and giving me the same
exactly.
repetitive stuff. I can see the problem. It's laid out.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
once I can see it on paper, I can see something I could do to make it better.
Right.
And now I can say, okay, well, looking at all these problems that I have, what could I do about it? And then with my pen, I start to
Yeah.
write some things I could do.
I love it.
And what's crazy is it works.
It does. It works. It works. And do not despise the small beginnings. And so if you feel like you have zero time, do something for 30 seconds, just something that's self-caring for 1 minute. It adds up.
What about somebody who feels guilty about self-care? What's your advice on that?
Yeah, that's where I was. I think in the beginning, that's why I didn't care for myself, because I felt like, oh, I've got to take care of the kids and I've got to do this. And any time I take for myself is selfish. The reality is that the time that you take for yourself is life-giving to everything else you do in the world, whether it's your work, your children, your spouse, your family. When you pour into yourself, we know that you have more to give. And often moms will not do that. Often women will not do that. And then they show up for their people, angry, tired, resentful, bitter, but they feel like, at least I'm here. At least I'm here. But you're not creating the experience that you want for the people in your life or for your work. And so what you have to realize is that it is selfish to not care for yourself, because you're hurting yourself and everybody else around you.
My wife and I just had an extremely busy, full April.
Mm-hmm.
It was so full, and we both were burned out by the end of it. There were multiple trips and so many things going on with the kids and everything else. And we were talking with a marriage counselor that we're working with, Dr. Kelly Flanagan, and our girls wanted a sleepover. And we were like finally hoping for one night where we didn't have all the obligations, and then now caring for other other parents' kids. And,
oh my goodness.
And then them not sleeping, and then them being cranky the next day. And we knew if we said no to the sleepover, they were going to be very disappointed and even mad at us. Like it wasn't fair. And he said, sometimes being the best parent is telling your kids no.
Oh yeah.
Because and his reason was what you just said, that if you say yes to the sleepover when you really don't mean it and you don't want it, you'll be resentful in some way. Yes. You'll be more tired. You'll be crankier. You might end up being the worst parent by saying yes.
Yes.
And in fact, if you say no and they're disappointed, but that gives you the rest that you need to recuperate and recover, that might be the best decision that you could do as a parent to help that child.
That's beautiful. And we often don't think that. We're just thinking in the moment and we want to please our people, but we're not thinking about the cost.
He also said, what we both just were feeling burned out. And he said to us, what do you need right now? And I thought I was doing self-care because one of the things I love to do is go surfing. Another one of the things I love to do is play basketball. And I would wake up at 4:30, go to the gym for an hour, come back, help Katie with the kids at breakfast, get them on their way, and then go surfing and change at the bathrooms at the beach, and then go to my meeting.
Oh my goodness.
I thought that was self-care, right? Yeah. And when he asked the question, what do you need right now? I said, I need a couple of hours of not doing anything to just let my soul catch up with my body.
Yes.
And that was really helpful for me because I didn't need to play basketball. I didn't need to go to the gym. I didn't need to go surfing. I needed to do nothing for a couple hours.
Yeah. What a beautiful question that your therapist asked you. But I encourage everyone listening to ask themselves that same question when you are in that space of feeling overwhelmed, and even not. Regularly ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? And even before you move your body, I think I probably talk about that in the book. Ask yourself, what does my body need to do right now? How should I move my body? And you'll find that you'll get the answer. One day it might be a walk. One day it might be playing basketball. One day it might be laying right down in the grass and just being and grounding yourself. And so that question that we rarely ask ourselves, it's easy for us to ask somebody else, what do you need? But we rarely ask ourselves that question. It's beautiful.
Your work is extraordinary. I'm so excited for your next book.
Thank you.
For the person listening that wants to get more involved in your world or learn more from you, how could they get in touch?
Yeah, they can go to my website, drzoeshaw.com. Also, I'm Dr. Zoe Shaw at all the socials, and you can check out my book, Stronger in the Difficult Places. It's on Amazon now for pre-order. And my podcast is the same name, Stronger in the Difficult Places.
Zoe, I am a big fan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Matt. It was wonderful.
If you've ever felt burned out, overwhelmed, or just plain exhausted from life's endless demands, today's episode was exactly what you needed to hear. Here are my top 5 takeaways from our conversation with Dr. Zoe Shaw. Number 1, self-care is how we survive. Self-care isn't just bubble baths and massages. It's essential daily habits, as foundational as brushing your teeth every day or eating your vegetables every day. Neglecting self-care leads to burnout, and practicing it consistently sustains your best life. Number 2, self-care means discipline. Real self-care isn't always comfortable. Discipline, setting boundaries, and doing what's best for your long-term health, mental and physical and spiritual, just like a good mother would do. That is what creates your true freedom and your best life. Number 3, self-care is about feeling worthy. How you treat yourself daily reflects how much you truly believe you're worth. Declaring your worthiness through using your self-care daily habits shows you that you're worth it, and you are worth it. Number 4, small habits lead to big impact. Self-care doesn't require huge chunks of time, just small, consistent actions. A few minutes every day, going outside, going for a walk. A minute writing down your thoughts and doing some brain dump. Just putting your hand on your heart, saying a prayer. Small acts make a huge impact in your self-care from physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional. And number 5, saying no is powerful self-care. Sometimes, like Katie and I did, you have to prioritize your own needs over those of others. And that means saying no and disappointing somebody. But when you really care for yourself and you put yourself first and you do what you need for yourself to feel your best, you give your best to everybody else. Self-care is not selfish. Neglecting your self-care and being a crazy, angry maniac is selfish. So prioritize your self-care. I want to hear from you. What's one tiny self-care habit that you love, that you know sets your day right? Just write that small habit in the comments below. And remember, hit subscribe because we're bringing you the best tips from the biggest stars in the world on how to care for your mental health every week. See you next week on Good Mood Revolution.